When you walk away from someone who took you for granted, something powerful happens. It's not just about leaving physically, it's about the energetic shift that occurs when you truly detach. See, people get comfortable when they believe they have access to you. They assume you'll always be there, always picking up the pieces, always making things right. It's human nature to overlook what is consistently available. The moment you remove yourself, not just in action, but in energy, a realization begins to form within them, one that hits harder than any words ever could. At first, they don't notice. That's the truth. You think they'll immediately feel the void, but in the beginning, it doesn't register. They may even feel a sense of relief, thinking they now have freedom, space, or control over the situation. They assume you'll return, that your absence is temporary, that it's just another one of those moments where emotions run high, but the cycle repeats. That's what they expect. They expect you to react the way you always have. They expect you to care. They expect you to check in, to send a message, to leave the door open just enough for them to feel safe. But something shifts when you do nothing, when you don't chase, when you don't explain, when you don't justify, when you simply remove yourself completely and do not return. A realization starts to settle in, slowly at first, like a whisper in the background of their mind. They may brush it off, continue their routine, and even convince themselves that your absence doesn't matter. And then, one day, it hits. They reach for their phone, and there's no message from you. They have a moment of vulnerability, a day where things don't go as planned, and suddenly, they realize the person who always cared is no longer there. They scroll through old messages, hoping to feel something familiar. They replay conversations in their mind, searching for the certainty they once had that you would always be there. But nothing comes. And that's when the reality sets in. It's unsettling, because now, for the first time, they have to face themselves without the comfort of knowing you're in the background, waiting. See, people don't fear losing you. They fear losing what they had access to. It's not always about love. It's about security, validation, and control. Your presence provided something for them, something they assumed was permanent. They never thought about what life would be like without you, because they never truly considered the possibility of you leaving for good. But you did. And now they feel the void. It's a slow, creeping realization that turns into an emotional weight they can't shake. They may not express it outwardly. They may pretend to be unaffected, but inside they are replaying every moment, every conversation, every sign they ignored. The mind is relentless when it recognizes loss too late. The mind will search for explanations, for a way to undo what has already been done. They may even convince themselves that if they just reach out, they can fix it. But deep down, there's a fear that maybe, just maybe, it's too late. And that fear is justified. Because when someone realizes what they had only after it's gone, it's never about love. It's about consequences. It's about them understanding for the first time that they were not entitled to you, that your presence was not a guarantee, that the security they felt was an illusion they created in their own mind. This is the moment where power shifts, because for the first time, you are no longer the one who is waiting. You are no longer the one who is hoping. You are no longer the one who is trying. The moment they realize you're not coming back is the moment they feel the weight of their own choices. The words they never said, the appreciation they never showed, the way they dismissed your presence as if it wasn't a privilege. And now all they have left is silence. That silence is louder than any argument, any message, any attempt to make sense of the past. That silence is deafening. It forces them to sit with their thoughts, to face the emptiness they never prepared for. They will think about reaching out. They will type messages and delete them. They will wonder if you're thinking about them the way they are now thinking about you. But the difference is, you've already made peace with it. You've already moved on in ways they never thought you could. And this is why it hits so hard. Not because they suddenly love you more. Not because they've had some grand revelation about their feelings. But because they've lost the security of knowing you were always there. They lost the privilege of your presence. They lost the silent assurance that no matter what, you would still care. And now they have to live with that. There is no greater awakening than realizing you took someone for granted and they never returned. Because when you truly walk away, not for attention, not for manipulation, but for yourself, there is nothing they can do to undo that moment. They can only feel the loss, and it stays with them long after you've moved on, long after you've healed, long after you've built a life where they are no longer a factor. That is why the moment they realize you're not coming back hits harder than anything they ever expected. There is a certain power that comes with detachment, a power most people never experience because they are too emotionally invested in the reactions, responses, and actions of others. When you remove your emotional energy from a situation, you stop feeding it. You stop giving it life. You stop making it matter in a way that drains you. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring in a way that prioritizes yourself. It's about realizing that your emotional energy is a currency, and if you spend it recklessly, you will always end up empty. When you first detach, there is an internal struggle. The mind wants to hold on. It wants to replay scenarios, analyze conversations, and search for meaning in every interaction. The ego craves a response, a reaction, some sign that your absence is being felt. But this is where most people fail. They think detachment is an action, when in reality it's a state of being. It's not just about removing yourself physically, it's about removing yourself emotionally. At first, the person on the other side may not notice the shift. They are used to your presence, your attention, your investment. They assume you will always react the way you always have. They assume they still hold some level of influence over you. But when you detach, they begin to sense something is different. There is no desperate attempt to fix things, no emotional outburst. No long-winded explanations, just silence, just space, just absence. That's when they start to feel it. The absence of your energy creates a void, and that void is unsettling. They may not understand it at first. They may even convince themselves that they don't care. But something inside them shifts. The security they once felt in knowing you were emotionally available is gone. The confidence they had in your attachment begins to fade. And for the first time, they are left alone with their own thoughts, their own choices, their own actions. See, people often mistake attachment for love, but they are not the same. Attachment is driven by need, by familiarity, by the comfort of knowing someone is there. But true power comes when you no longer need external validation to feel whole. True strength is found in the ability to let go without fear, to walk away without looking back, to trust that whatever is meant for you will never require you to beg for it. The moment you detach, you take back control, not of the other person, not of the situation, but of yourself. Because as long as you are emotionally entangled, you are not free. You are operating from a place of reaction rather than intention. You are allowing someone else's actions to dictate your emotions. But when you detach, you step into a different level of power. You become untouchable. They may test you. They may try to trigger a reaction. They may reach out in subtle ways to see if they still have a hold over you. They may even provoke you just to get an emotional response. But when you are truly detached, none of it moves you. You see their actions for what they are: attempts to pull you back into a cycle that you have already outgrown. And that realization alone is enough to reinforce your decision to let go. Detachment does not mean you do not feel. It does not mean you are cold, heartless, or indifferent. It simply means you no longer allow your emotions to be manipulated. It means you no longer engage in battles that drain you. It means you understand that your peace is more valuable than any temporary satisfaction that comes from proving a point or winning an argument. There is a certain discomfort that comes with detachment, both for you and for the person who once had power over your emotions. For you, it is the discomfort of breaking a pattern, of learning to sit with your emotions without acting on them, of trusting that you do not need closure to move on. For them, it is the discomfort of losing control, of realizing that the buttons they once pushed no longer work, of feeling the weight of your absence in a way they never expected. At first, they may pretend it doesn't matter. They may act unbothered, carry on as if nothing has changed. But over time, the weight of your detachment becomes undeniable. They start to feel the space you once occupied. They start to notice the difference in how you respond, or rather, how you don't respond at all. And that realization begins to eat away at them, because nothing is more unsettling than realizing you no longer have power over someone who once cared deeply. Nothing is more frustrating than trying to provoke a reaction and getting nothing but silence. And nothing is more painful than understanding too late that the person you took for granted has outgrown you. Detachment is not just about them, it's about you. It's about shifting your focus inward, about reclaiming the energy you once poured into a situation that no longer serves you. It's about recognizing that your emotional state is yours to control, and no one else has the right to dictate how you feel. When you reach this level of detachment, you realize that true freedom comes not from holding on, but from letting go. There is a certain power in silence that most people underestimate until they are forced to sit in it. Silence is not just the absence of words. It is the loudest statement you can make. When you remove your voice, your presence, and your energy from someone's life, it creates a void they never expected. It forces them to face what they have ignored, to sit with the consequences of their actions, and to confront the reality that they can no longer take you for granted. Silence is the moment when the weight of your absence truly begins to sink in. At first, they may not notice. They may even enjoy the quiet, mistaking it for a temporary pause rather than a permanent shift. They may tell themselves that it doesn't matter, that they are fine without you, that life will continue as it always has. But silence is a slow burn. It doesn't strike like lightning. It creeps in like a shadow, filling the spaces where you used to be. The conversations that once felt effortless now feel empty. The moments that were once shared now feel incomplete. The silence lingers in the background of their mind, growing louder with every passing day. The absence of your voice becomes deafening. They don't realize it at first because they are distracted, preoccupied, lost in their own sense of control. They assume they can reach out whenever they want, that they can pull you back in with a simple message, a casual conversation, or a familiar apology. But silence is not passive. It is intentional. And when they finally recognize that you are not just being quiet, but have truly chosen to remove yourself, the impact is undeniable. The realization begins to settle in during the moments when they least expect it. Maybe it happens when they scroll through their phone and notice your name missing from their notifications. Maybe it happens when they experience something they once would have shared with you, only to realize they no longer have that connection. Maybe it happens in a moment of loneliness. That's when it starts to sink in that's when they begin to feel the weight of the silence. They may try to fill the void with distractions. They may surround themselves with noise, with people, with anything that keeps them from feeling the emptiness your absence has created. But silence is not easily ignored. It lingers in the spaces between conversations, in the pauses where your voice once existed. It follows them into their quietest moments, reminding them of what they lost. And the more they try to escape it, the more they realize that silence is not something that can be ignored. It must be faced. Silence has a way of making people reflect in ways that words never could. When you argue, when you plead, when you try to explain your worth, you are still giving them something to engage with. You are giving them an opportunity to respond, to justify, to manipulate the situation to their advantage. But when you say nothing, when you walk away without explanation, you take away their power. You leave them alone with their own thoughts, their own doubts, their own regrets. And that is when the real impact begins to unfold. They start to wonder. They start to question. They start to realize that maybe, just maybe, they miscalculated. They thought they had time. They thought they could come back whenever they wanted. They thought you would always be there, waiting, ready to listen, ready to forgive. But silence shatters that illusion. Silence forces them to confront the reality that you are no longer accessible, no longer waiting, no longer theirs to return to. And that realization is painful. Because when they finally acknowledge that you are truly gone, they are left with only one thing: their own thoughts. And thoughts, when left unchecked, can be relentless. They will replay the moments they took for granted. They will analyze the things they said, the actions they took, the opportunities they missed. They will wonder if they could have done something differently, if they could have changed the outcome, if there is any way to undo the damage that has been done. But the harsh truth is that some things once lost cannot be recovered. Some silences are not temporary, they are final. And when they come to that realization, it hits with a force they never saw coming. Because silence, when used with intention, is not just a lack of words. It is a statement, a boundary, a lesson. It is the clearest message you can send without saying a single word. And by the time they finally understand that, it is often far too late. When you reach the point of recognizing your worth, a shift occurs within you. It's as if a switch is flipped and suddenly you begin to see yourself not as someone who is at the mercy of others' actions or perceptions, but as someone who holds the power to define your own value. This realization is not just empowering, it is transformative. It is the moment you stop seeking external validation and start understanding that your worth is inherent, built on your strengths, your abilities, your potential, and your individuality. It is a deep understanding that you are enough exactly as you are. What often holds people back from recognizing their own worth is the belief that they need to prove something to others. They seek approval, attention, and reassurance from people who may never truly understand or appreciate them. They pour their energy into earning the approval of others, believing that validation from external sources will fill a void within themselves. But the moment you realize that your worth is not tied to anyone else's opinion, you free yourself from the shackles of seeking approval. You stop waiting for others to recognize your value, and you begin to recognize it for yourself. Recognizing your worth requires shedding the belief that you must bend, shrink, or diminish yourself to fit into someone else's mold. It means stepping into your authenticity and embracing the unique qualities that make you who you are. It's about understanding that your worth is not contingent on meeting other people's expectations or living up to their standards. Instead, it is about living in alignment with your own truth, your own principles, and your own desires. When you do this, you release the need to constantly seek out approval from others. You stop apologizing for being yourself, and you start owning your space This recognition comes with a shift in perspective. It's no longer about measuring your worth based on your relationships, your job, or your achievements. It's about seeing yourself as an individual who stands apart from these things. You begin to understand that your value is not tied to your past mistakes or the people who may have left you behind. Your worth is not determined by external factors. It is a constant and unshakable foundation within you. Once you realize your worth, you also start to recognize that you deserve to be treated with respect. This doesn't mean that you demand respect in a forceful or aggressive way, but rather you set the tone for how others treat you by how you treat yourself. When you respect yourself, when you value yourself, others will take notice. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and the boundaries you set all communicate your level of self-respect. People will either rise to meet the standards you've set for yourself, or they will fall away. This shift in mindset also allows you to stop chasing after relationships, situations, or outcomes that no longer serve you. You stop settling for less than what you deserve. You no longer tolerate disrespect, mistreatment, or dishonesty. Instead, you create space for the people, experiences, and opportunities that align with your values, your goals, and your highest potential. This is not about being arrogant or prideful. It is about understanding that you are worthy of the best life has to offer, and you are no longer willing to accept anything less. Recognizing your worth also gives you the courage to walk away from situations that drain your energy, from people who devalue you, and from circumstances that hold you back. You stop waiting for someone to make the first move or to give you permission to leave. You simply take action because you know that your happiness, peace, and fulfillment are your responsibility. You trust that by letting go of what no longer serves you, you create room for new, better things to come into your life. There's a quiet confidence that comes with this recognition. It's not a boastful or attention-seeking confidence. It's a quiet assurance that you are enough, just as you are. It's the kind of confidence that comes from within, not from the validation of others. When you recognize your worth, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. You know your own value, and that is enough. This recognition also gives you the strength to face challenges head on. When you know your worth, you stop seeing obstacles as insurmountable problems and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. You no longer fear failure or rejection because you understand that your worth is not dependent on your success. You are not defined by your accomplishments. You are defined by your resilience, your ability to keep moving forward, and your commitment to your own growth. As you recognize your worth, you begin to set new standards for your life. You demand more from yourself, not in terms of perfection, but in terms of growth, fulfillment, and authenticity. You stop playing small and you start playing big. You no longer settle for mediocrity because you know that you are capable of achieving greatness. This shift in perspective doesn't just change how you see yourself, it changes how you show up in the world. You start to see possibilities everywhere, knowing that you are worthy of pursuing your dreams, whatever they may be. In this process, you begin to attract the things you deserve. When you truly recognize your worth, the universe responds accordingly. You begin to draw to you the people, opportunities, and experiences that match the level of value you place on yourself. Your life starts to reflect the abundance and success that you believe you deserve. And that belief, in turn, continues to reinforce the realization that your worth is not negotiable. It is an inherent part of who you are, and it is unshakable. When you stop chasing validation from others, you unlock a level of freedom that is hard to fully comprehend until you experience it firsthand. Validation in many ways can feel like a drug. It feeds your ego, temporarily fills the gaps in your self-worth, and provides a sense of comfort. But this comfort is fleeting. And relying on external sources for validation can keep you locked in a cycle of seeking approval that never truly satisfies. When you stop chasing validation, you begin to break free from the chains that hold you back from living authentically and fully. One of the most powerful shifts that happens when you stop seeking validation is the release of the constant need for reassurance. So many people live in a perpetual state of uncertainty, constantly asking others for their opinions or seeking approval before making decisions. This habit not only undermines your own confidence, but it also gives away your personal power. When you stop seeking validation, you reclaim the ability to make decisions based on your own judgment and inner knowing. You begin to trust your intuition, your instincts, and your own wisdom, knowing that you have everything you need within yourself to navigate life. Living without the need for external validation also opens up the opportunity for self-reflection and growth. Without the constant pressure to meet the expectations of others, you are free to explore your true desires, passions, and goals. You can pursue the things that truly resonate with you without being swayed by what others think or expect. This freedom to pursue your own path without the burden of validation from others allows you to align more deeply with your authentic self. You stop playing roles or trying to meet societal standards that were never yours to begin with. It's important to understand that seeking validation is often rooted in fear, insecurity about whether we are good enough, whether we are worthy of love or success, whether we fit in or belong. These fears can be deeply ingrained in us from an early age, from childhood experiences, societal conditioning, or previous relationships. We are conditioned to seek approval and affirmation as a way of proving our worth. But this reliance on external sources for validation is unsustainable and ultimately leads to frustration and self-doubt. When you let go of the need for validation, you begin to break free from this cycle of fear. You begin to realize that your worth does not depend on what others think of you. It is not determined by how many people like you or agree with you. It is not based on your achievements or how successful others perceive you to be. Your worth is inherent, built into who you are at your core. The more you accept and embrace this truth, the less you feel the need to seek validation from anyone else. Letting go of the need for validation also strengthens your ability to stand alone, to be independent, and to rely on your own sense of self-worth. You stop depending on others to fill the gaps in your self-esteem. Instead, you develop the inner strength to affirm yourself, to love yourself, and to honor your needs and desires without needing anyone else to do it for you. This independence is liberating. It allows you to make decisions that are in alignment with your values, to set boundaries that protect your well-being, and to live a life that is true to who you are. You may find that as you stop chasing validation, some people in your life will react negatively. They may not understand why you no longer seek their approval, and they may try to pressure you back into old patterns of behavior. But as you strengthen your sense of self, these external pressures become less influential. You stop allowing the opinions of others to dictate your actions, and you start standing firm in your truth. The people who truly respect and support you will begin to see the changes in you and will either rise to meet you at your new level or fall away. This process is not about rejecting relationships or seeking to distance yourself from others, but rather about learning to love and accept yourself fully, regardless of what anyone else thinks. When you stop seeking validation from others, you stop giving away your power. You stop handing control over your emotions, your decisions, and your happiness to people who are not fully invested in your well-being. You take back the reins of your life, trusting that you are the one who is ultimately responsible for your happiness and fulfillment. In addition to personal growth, this shift in mindset also allows you to form deeper, more authentic connections with others. When you stop chasing validation, you no longer enter relationships with a need to prove your worth or seek constant affirmation. Instead, you engage with others from a place of mutual respect, understanding, and love. You no longer feel the need to impress others because you already know who you are and what you bring to the table. This creates space for healthier, more balanced relationships where both parties are free to be themselves without the pressure of needing to please each other. Another significant benefit of letting go of the need for validation is the freedom to fail and to learn from your mistakes. When you are not seeking validation, you stop being afraid of failure, criticism, or judgment. You understand that mistakes are part of the process and that they do not define you. You are free to take risks, to experiment, and to grow without the fear of disappointing others or falling short of expectations. This freedom to fail allows you to step into new opportunities, challenges, and experiences that you may have otherwise avoided out of fear of not measuring up. Letting go of validation also allows you to fully embrace your uniqueness. You stop comparing yourself to others, and you stop trying to fit into someone else's mold. Instead, you celebrate your individuality and recognize that your uniqueness is what sets you apart. You stop living for approval and start living for yourself. You make choices that are aligned with your own desires, and you pursue your goals with confidence, knowing that your path is your own and that you do not need to seek permission or approval from anyone to walk it. When you stop chasing validation, you move from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. Instead of feeling like you need to prove your worth, you recognize that you are already worthy. You stop looking outside yourself for affirmation, and instead you begin to cultivate self-love and self-acceptance. This shift is profound as it allows you to live more fully, more freely, and more authentically. You no longer give away your power to the opinions of others, and in doing so, you take full ownership of your life. When you accept that your time and energy are valuable, a profound shift occurs in your life. You begin to see time not as something to be squandered or taken for granted, but as a precious resource that must be respected and utilized wisely. This shift is more than just about managing time. It's about managing yourself and the way you prioritize what truly matters to you. This realization empowers you to take full control over your life. No longer do you feel like a passenger in your own journey, allowing external circumstances or others' expectations to dictate your path. Instead, you become the driver, setting the course based on your own values, needs, and aspirations. This realization is liberating because it allows you to focus on what is most important to you. You start to recognize that the time you spend on things that do not align with your goals or your well-being is time you will never get back. You begin to prioritize those activities that bring you joy, growth, and fulfillment. The distractions that once consumed your time begin to fall away, leaving space for more meaningful pursuits. This process involves letting go of the unnecessary, whether it be toxic relationships, time-wasting habits, or commitments that drain your energy. It requires you to take an honest look at how you spend your time and to make conscious choices about how you want to invest it. When you understand the value of your time, you stop allowing others to waste it. Whether it's people who demand your attention without offering anything of value in return, or situations that only add stress and negativity to your life, you begin to set clear boundaries. You stop being reactive to other people's demands and start being proactive about how you allocate your time and energy. This is not about being selfish or unkind. It's about protecting your well-being and ensuring that you are using your time in ways that serve your highest good. Part of this process is learning to say no. Saying no is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of your own priorities. It's a recognition that every yes to someone else is a no to something more important to you. When you learn to say no, you stop overextending yourself, you stop spreading yourself too thin, and you stop sacrificing your peace and time for things that do not align with your core values. Saying no allows you to preserve your energy for what truly matters. whether that's time spent with loved ones, working on your passions, or focusing on personal growth. This shift in mindset also means becoming more intentional with your time. You stop allowing the hours of the day to slip by without purpose. Instead, you begin to schedule your time around your priorities and your long-term goals. You understand that every decision you make about how to spend your time is a choice, and that those choices compound over time, shaping your future. By being intentional with your time, you begin to see that you are not at the mercy of your circumstances or the demands of others. You have the power to create the life you want by making decisions that align with your deeper goals and desires. This intentionality extends beyond just the way you manage your time. It also influences how you spend your energy. Your energy is just as valuable as your time. And when you recognize this, you become much more selective about where you invest it. You stop giving your energy to people or situations that drain you. Instead, you seek out environments, relationships, and activities that recharge you and help you grow. When you direct your energy toward things that align with your purpose, you start to see a ripple effect in your life. You become more focused, more productive, and more connected to the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. Equally important is the understanding that time is the one resource you can never get back. Once a moment passes, it is gone forever. This awareness encourages you to live more fully in the present moment. Instead of obsessing over the past or worrying about the future, you learn to embrace the now. You start to savor the little things, the conversations, the experiences, the opportunities to grow. You realize that every moment is a gift, and you start living with a sense of urgency, not in the sense of rushing or panicking, but in the understanding that every moment counts. In addition to living in the present, you also start planning for the future with intention. Recognizing the value of your time propels you to take steps now that will benefit you in the long run. This involves setting clear, actionable goals and making daily choices that bring you closer to those goals. You no longer let life just happen to you. Instead, you begin to actively shape your future by using your time and energy in ways that will lead to your desired outcome. You also start to understand that the way you manage your time reflects your sense of self-worth. If you continually allow others to control how you spend your time, it is a sign that you may not fully value yourself. By taking charge of your time, you send a powerful message to yourself and others that you are deserving of respect and that your time is valuable. This newfound respect for your time also translates into better self-care. You realize that in order to be at your best for others, you must first be at your best for yourself. This means making time for rest, for reflection, and for activities that nourish your body and soul. As you begin to respect the value of your time, you also start to become more disciplined in how you use it. Time management becomes less about rigid scheduling and more about making decisions that honor your values and priorities. You become more focused, more productive, and less prone to procrastination. You stop wasting time on distractions and start focusing on what truly matters. Whether it's building a career, strengthening relationships, or nurturing your personal growth, you realize that the time you spend today will determine the life you live tomorrow. This discipline also comes with the ability to stay grounded in your purpose. When you recognize the value of your time, you stop allowing yourself to be pulled in multiple directions by external pressures. Instead, you stay centered in your goals and your values, letting those guide your decisions. You understand that you can't do everything, and you begin to prioritize what truly matters to you. This clarity of purpose helps you stay on track and avoid distractions that would otherwise derail you from your path. Ultimately, when you value your time, you begin to live a life of intention, purpose, and fulfillment. You stop being a passive observer of your life and become an active creator, shaping your experiences and outcomes by how you choose to spend your time. This empowerment leads to a deep sense of satisfaction and peace, knowing that you are living in alignment with your true self, making the most of the time you have, and building a life that reflects your deepest desires and values.